it is that time of the week when we go out to California. In this case, I guess Los Angeles, right, Michael?
Yes, indeedy.
And we talk to our good friend Michael Snyder, who will tell you what's happening in the movies because he goes to them so you don't have to. What's happening, Michael?
Well, we're in the belly of the beast here in Hollywood, and guess what? Finally, a weekend where the movies that are coming out have real impact, that are smacking of Oscar bait, as you and I like to say, and also are pretty damn good. I mean, not one, not two, but at least three that I can say, hey, watch this thing, whether you're watching it on a streaming service or watching it at the theater. In the case of Spectre, the latest of the James Bond films, you want to watch this movie at a movie theater unless you have a very big home screen and surround sound. It is the fourth of the James Bond films to feature Daniel Craig as the British secret agent and assassin codenamed 007, and it nicely wraps up the interconnected quartet of movies that began with the reboot of the series starring Craig, Casino Royale. And other than Sean Connery, Craig is my favorite cinema version of author Ian Fleming's Super Spy, originally Cold Warrior of the 50s and 60s. And if Craig quits now, these four films can stand alone like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy that featured Christian Bale, bringing Batman into the 21st century. This is the same kind of thing. This is Bond in the 21st century. Now, though, instead of communist takeovers and, weird would-be world dictators of the past with quirks, he's dealing with the high-tech New World Order and shadow governments of modern day, and they still boast their share of supervillains, such as Franz Oberhauser in Spectre, who is played to a T by Christoph Waltz. And like Skyfall, the previous film in the series, where Bond's mentor was imperiled and his past was in play, there's a personal component here, and we learn who's been pulling the strings behind much of the bad stuff that's happened to Bond in the previous three films, and also why. This is much less lighthearted than the Connery or Roger Moore romp from bygone days, but that said, Craig's Bond is also the closest he's been to the sharp, effective, kind of mordantly humorous and selectively womanizing guy that he was when Connery played the character in the first set of Bond films. The action sequences start at a Mexico City Day of the Dead celebration. Unbelievable stuff at the beginning, and they span the globe from Oberhauser's world-endangering desert lair to an abandoned skyscraper in London. They're gripping and fun. They're even jaw-dropping at times. I actually heard my jaw drop. The requisite Bond love interests and sexy women of mystery are played by two of my favorite international actresses, Monica Bellucci, and in a much larger role, Léa Seydoux, the French actress. And Bond's allies at MI6 are played by Ray Fiennes, who takes over from Judi Dench as the Spy Master M, Ben Whishaw as Tech Master Q, Rory Kinnear, who plays Frankenstein in Penny Dreadful, or actually the monster, is Bill Tanner, M's number two, and Naomi Harris is Moneypenny. And to make matters even cooler, there's a UK government adversary codenamed C, and he's played by Andrew Scott, who is the villain Moriarty on the BBC Sherlock series. So, geez, I wonder if he's a good guy. Anyway, fine performances, and it's not the best of the four Craig Bond movies. That's still Casino Royale, but the director, Sam Mendes, keeps up the quality of his work on the previous film, Skyfall, and so do Craig and his cohorts. I thought it was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. Spotlight is kind of an important film, I think, and one that's going to upset some people and turn some heads. And I think as docudramas go, it's one of the better ones I've seen in the past year. Mark Ruffalo, Rachel McAdams, and Michael Keaton star as the three core members of Spotlight, which is an investigative magazine, a column section of the Boston Globe. And this is the true story of how the Globe uncovered the massive scandal of child molestation and the cover-up within the Boston area Catholic Archdiocese, and they actually rocked the whole church and made the city go bonkers, and they earned a Pulitzer Prize for the investigation. This also features Liev Schreiber as the Globe's new editor, who empowers them to do this. He's like the new guy in town, and he doesn't understand that you're supposed to kowtow to the church. Stanley Tucci plays a dedicated and difficult lawyer trying to help the victims who have been marginalized or may have been bought off by the church. This is powerful, exciting, deeply affecting, a fact-based human drama with excellent performances all around. And Ruffalo and Keaton seem like probable nominees when the awards start getting given out. And it's directed by Tom McCarthy, who co-wrote the thing. I think was fine, great, powerful. Brooklyn is something you can take your girlfriend or your boyfriend to, depending upon what your interests are. It's the dramatic, romantic story of a young Irish immigrant who is navigating her way through 1950s Brooklyn after taking the boat over here. And here's a real ace in the hole. Nick Hornby, who wrote High Fidelity and adapted An Education, wrote the screenplay here, and he is in great form. And Saoirse Ronan, the young Irish actress whose name looks like Saoirse, is playing her first adult role here as the central figure, a girl named Lacey, and she is... she's just wonderful. She's just right there. Domhnall Gleeson plays a suitor. Jim Broadbent plays the priest that kind of sponsors her to move to America and find a little work and a new life. And Julie Walters is the woman, the landlady, who runs the ladies-only boarding house, kind of like the one in Agent Carter, which is where women lived and they couldn't bring boyfriends and stuff. Very, very cool. And she meets a guy. A Brooklyn guy. And it's sweet, emotionally resonant, a gentle love story with like note-perfect period detail. And the cast sells the whole thing. You know, it's the immigrant experience and a look at New York in the early 50s. And I just found it very sweet and you know, definitely worthwhile. It'll read well on video, on home video, so you can maybe wait for it there, but it's beautiful stuff. And directed by a guy named John Crowley. I don't know much of his other work, but this was first rate. Trumbo is a film biography that tells the story of the acclaimed novelist and screenwriter Dalton Trumbo, who basically ran afoul of the McCarthy hearings and their commie witch hunt. Found his career...
No, he didn't.
What do you mean?
No, he didn't. You make a mistake a lot of people make. McCarthy had nothing to do with it.
Well, that came after. It was the House Un-American Activities.
Two entirely different situations. The House Un-American Activities Subcommittee went around doing the Hollywood witch hunts. McCarthy was just involved in the Army McCarthy hearings, in which he was trying to root out communists in the Army. Nothing to do with Trumbo. I know this because I've interviewed Trumbo.
Well, this was not the Army stuff. You're right, but this was all part of the same.
Why did you just say I was wrong? It wasn't McCarthy.
I'm just saying this was all part of the American.
That's not what you meant. You said
the commie menace.
You said McCarthy.
Yeah, okay, fine. The House Un-American Activities. Come on, man! It's the weekend. I've already started drinking.
There's a big difference. I have studied this because I went to one of those hearings once when I was 15 years old, and I then went on to interview a lot of people who were blacklisted over the years, including Dalton Trumbo, and so I know this topic probably better than I know almost any topic, and I'm looking very much forward to this film. So I hope it's good.
Well, Bryan Cranston as Trumbo is amazing, and Trumbo does run afoul of the House Un-American Activities Committee and is part of the Hollywood. What do they call themselves? The Hollywood 10.
It was the Hollywood 10, yeah.
And these guys were all blacklisted, and in the case of Trumbo and a few of the others, jailed for not going along with the House Un-American Activities Committee hearings and basically not testifying. Or at least being indolent toward the hearing. And Cranston's performance is wonderful. And Trumbo does go to jail. Spoiler alert, but he figures out ways to work in the Hollywood system under the radar, essentially. I have to say, Louis C.K., wonderful as one of his colleagues in the Hollywood 10. Also, you know him probably from a variety of things, including Serenity and Firefly. Alan Tudyk plays one of the Hollywood 10. And the truth is, there are famous people that are kind of brought to this thing, and there are impressions done by actors. And one of them is an impression of Kirk Douglas. And it's the best of all of them.
Douglas was maybe the most important single figure in the resuscitation of Trumbo, because Trumbo wrote the screenplay for Spartacus,
Right.
And he said, "Okay, what name are we going to put on this?" Because he had previously won an Academy Award under the name Robert Rich.
Yeah, for Roman Holiday, which is a
Not for
yeah,
Roman
yeah.
Holiday. No, for the Little Woman.
Excuse me. You're right. He had won 2 Academy Awards under other names. Robert Rich was for the Brave One.
Yeah, brave one. But it was, and Kirk Douglas said, "This is too good a screenplay. You're putting your name on it, and we're putting it out with your name, and I don't care what the consequences are." Very brave move by Kirk Douglas. Yeah.
Well, Michael Stolberg plays one of Trumbo's early allies, who actually has kind of a change of heart because of his own career, Edward G. Robinson. And what you don't get is, "I was a coward." See, you get none of that kind of impression. You get like Robinson away from the camera, so it's a little kind of
It's funny, yeah, because I thought you were going to mention they mentioned Edward Dimitrick.
They don't.
Oh, well, he was one of them, and he turned tail and just told on them. And so, therefore, he was never indicted.
Helen Mirren plays Hedda Hopper, the gossip columnist, who was the horrible, venomous heart of this blacklisting thing. She and there's a guy plays John Wayne, and it's kind of an impression and kind of not. So that stuff, Helen Mirren is unimpeachably great, and Dino Gorman, who plays Douglas, is great. Cranston is great, and as Trumbo's wife, Diane Lane, is just wonderfully solid. Elle Fanning plays the eldest daughter in the Trumbo family. They weren't stinting when they put this together, and there is a wonderful piece of casting on the part of Jay Roach and his people. Roach directed this thing. They have John Goodman playing, I guess he's one of the brothers, the King brothers, or the guys that ran the King Studios or something like that, the people who actually hire him under the radar. He plays Frank King. And also, as his brother, Stephen Root, and they are just tremendous together. It's very charming and funny in places, but it's also deadly serious. And it's a story that people should know about. It's an important and disturbing piece of American cultural history, and it's told in broad strokes, but it's very witty, and it rocks through the Cranston's performance, which is another nomination-worthy turn. And Louis C.K., he was terrific in this thing. I give it high marks, and maybe I love it a little too much, but there you go. Let's wrap this thing up quickly. Miss You Already is a kind of a weepy, a dramedy, the story of 2 women who were best friends, and that's Toni Collette and Drew Barrymore. And it's based in London, and it's about these lifelong best friends, Millie and Jess, who've shared everything since they were kids, but are confronted with the challenges of adulthood. And what that means is, what they're going to do about kids, health issues, and such. And I found it actually effective. This is another good date movie, I would think. And it's actually helped incredibly by solid direction from Catherine Hardwicke, and also as the men in the lives of our 2 heroines, Dominic Cooper and Patty Considine, and those guys are great. So it's solid cast-wise. Jackie Bissett's in this thing too. It's a little bit like Terms of Entrapment. You get caught up in the kind of cute relationship, but you're brought into the misery of how life can turn ugly and how people have to deal with it. And finally, Peggy Guggenheim, Art Addict, is a documentary about the eccentric and colorful heiress and patron of the arts. I enjoyed the film to a point. I would have liked a little more about her life and struggles and the eventual dispensation of her Venice Museum and all the pieces she owned. But the title says it's about her relationship with the art world, and it covers a lot of that ground. Peggy Guggenheim, Art Addict. What's up in television, pal?
But the only thing I think worth mentioning is Supergirl, which I think is a really fine little show.
Soupy McBeal?
You're Soupy McBeal, yeah. No, it isn't. It isn't actually a Soupy McBeal, no. But
no, just checking, because you got Callista Flockhart playing her mean boss.
Poor Callista Flockhart. I mean, forever they're going to do the Ally McBeal deal with her, and she's gone beyond that. I mean, she's really playing the Devil Wears Prada in this show.
Yeah, she's television's very own Meryl Streep as the monstrous editor of the Devil Wears Prada. Nice call. Hey, look, I enjoyed it. We'll see how it goes over the next few weeks, but I enjoyed it. I like The Flash. I like those superhero shows, most of them. But
If they
I'm
were
enjoying
the
that.
only thing I'm bothered by is if they were going to modernize her, get rid of the skirt.
Oh, I don't know. I think the more the wind blows up it, the happier this viewer is. No, I'm kidding. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, but
Well, are you disturbed by the colorblind casting of Jimmy Olsen?
not in the least.
It looks like they have a nice romantic chemistry. Him and Melissa Benoist or whatever her name is.
Benoist. Yeah, yeah.
I also want to say,
And also Fargo is just sensational this year.
Fargo has been fantastic. You're absolutely right about that. And I
Also,
guess
The Last Kingdom,
haven't watched
which is
it.
on BBC America. Yeah, it's great. It's just great.
Apologies for not having seen the Peanuts movie, which is getting very good reviews and is a family film that's apparently working. I'm going to try to catch up to it. But in the meantime, I guess that's it for us. And you can check in with me at Twitter by looking for Culture Blaster, that's one word, and listen to Alex and myself and read stuff and what have you at Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook. And how about Roku, baby?
Oh, Roku too. Cuckoo Cachoo. Anyway, hey, thanks, Michael. We'll see you next week with a lot more movies. Bye. And that's it. Michael will be back next week, and there's more Gabnet coming right up.